And kind of mentioned, because my next question was, what do we feed our earthworms and how do we take care of them? And you kind of mentioned that already by the leftovers.
Yes.
So
I can deep on that as well, Christine. So we have the Vermi menu, and actually the main thing here is that you give worms a variety of food. That is why every time I go shopping, I'm also thinking somehow in my worms, because it encourages you to eat healthy because you want to have a lot of greens, especially leafy stuff.
Okay.
And the greater the variety, the better the compost, right? Because a lot of food scrap that we are adding actually adds around nutrients, right? And so at the end of the day, we're actually eating those kitchen leftovers. So we don't want to just put fries or food that are junk or fast food, right? So limit the amount also of citrus food, as they are acidic and can affect the pH. In my case, I love citrus fruit, so I add, but with moderation. So just make sure that you actually mix it with also fruits, vegetables, all of these leafy stuff. And coffee grounds, if you're a coffee person, those are delicious because even the smell, it provides the structure and also the smell. So it's wonderful if you can add also the coffee grounds and filter. And if you have those tea bags that are not with the staple, those will kill your worms. So make sure you remove that staple. But those that are more like in a paper bag, those are wonderful, and that you can add, and those will decompose. Not the ones that are plastified; those are toxic. Should remove it and avoid. And also add a lot of your browns, what we call the carbon source, because you usually have to have a balance between what we call the nitrogen source, which is all your greens, and your carbon source, which is more like the browns, like the dry leaves. You can also add paper. Shredded paper is wonderful. If you add there cardboard, like corrugated cardboard, I have a lot, So add those, shredded that on top of all the fruit and all your nitrogen sources that you are adding, especially also grass clippings as well are good. And one thing that I have read kind of different versions, but I have been doing vermicompost for almost 10 years, and I always add eggshells crushed. So the eggshells are good because earthworms don't have adentition as we have, right? So how they actually manage to triturate and to actually disintegrate pretty much even an avocado seed, right? Like that's just amazed me. So the way they do is that they triturate thanks to these eggshells. So I don't know if you are familiar that, or do you know that birds actually ingest also, because they don't have any dentition, ingest also some stones that help them to triturate, to macerate the food, and that helps them. The same analogy or the same applies to the worms. The eggshells help them a lot to triturate and to digest the whole thing. So it's also a wonderful source of calcium. So it's good to add those things. Things that you should avoid: meat. So meat and animal products like a poo of your cat, or those you should avoid. Fish as well. Why? Not because they won't decompose that, but it's because your compost is going to be very smelly. It's going to slow down the whole process of decomposition. So you will enjoy more a more vegetarian, I would say, vermicompost than based on meat. So try to avoid all meat, fish, even cheese and butter. Sometimes if there's just small leftover in your plate at the end, it's okay. I have been adding that and it's fine, as long as you compensate very well with your leafy material, with your fruits, with your coffee grounds, and your brown paper as well. And so that's pretty much what I recommend, and ensure that flies and others are not a problem, because you need to cover on top of that. And I think I can talk about that later as well, how to set up the vermicompost. But those is pretty much the things that that worms will enjoy. And in your
so you said that they'll decompose an avocado pit. So would that be the same for any fruit seed or pit?
They do, yeah. There's incredible. I have seen even the corn, kind of Mexican, as you know. So my worms are also with the Mexican diet. So they actually they love the, how do you call it, corn cob.
Yeah.
So they love being inside and create all these beautiful Well, I see it. Beautiful. Channels, it's just incredible how they just can get inside, just start eating. But it takes a little bit longer if you add a lot of all these material, but it's just fascinating to see them. Like, of course, the avocado seeds, I keep seeing it even after 2 months because it takes a while. And it depends also on the amount of worms that you will have in the system. They prefer easier stuff like the leafy greens that you're adding, or fruits and vegetables that are also easier. And we have to remember that are not just the worms that are eating of all these kitchen leftovers that we're putting there, right? But it's billions of microorganisms helping also in the decomposition. So all of them are decomposers, what we call, right? So it's just majestic.
That's super cool that they can decompose like all that hard stuff, you know.
Yeah.
That's awesome.